They think that they're sort of Greek philosophers and we're Roman legionaries. So we are the muscle, but we're stupid, and they're smart, but they're too moral to have armies and militaries. So in their way of thinking, Macron is, well, I shall come to you, Donald, and I will give you a plan that our beautiful intellectuals have thought up. And you and your, I don't know what you call them, the B1, the B2, I don't know what they are, but you just go do it according to our direction. That's how they think.
Hello and welcome to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. This is our weekend episode where we do something a little bit different in the middle segment, and Victor's looking at 1945, World War II, the end of World War II today. So an exciting moment for our historical study. And we'll do more news first, and of course the Iran-Israeli war is up top of the agenda. We got lots more questions. I know we treated it on Friday, but we're going to do it again in just a few minutes after this message. Welcome back to the Victor Davis Hanson Show. So Victor, there's so many things to ask you about, but maybe I'll start with the media coverage of the war on Iran by Israel. And that is that the Wall Street Journal has reported by 3 anonymous sources that Donald Trump has approved a plan to attack Iran. And Donald Trump replied with the Wall Street Journal doesn't know anything that he's talking about.
Yeah, there's 2 things. Carolyn Levitt said that he was going to make a decision in the next 2 weeks. Well, what I think they're saying is he's already decided on a plan. Doesn't mean he's adopted the plan yet. He's ready to go. And he's moving assets in the region. Tankers, fighters, bombers, carrier task forces. So we'll just see in the next 2 weeks. And what is he waiting for? Well, what he's waiting for is the maximum amount of damage that the Israelis can do, both to ensure the air defenses of Iran are non-existent, and they have gone from air superiority to air supremacy. There are some rumors out that the Israelis themselves, under pressure from Trump, are in talks with General Kurilla about mechanisms that they could take out some of the more difficult nuclear facilities that are under 100 yards of solid rock. And what do I mean by that? Either drop commandos in. I think they would not have much chance of surprise. It's a Texas-sized country with over 90 million people. Or they have in Afghanistan, the United States dropped a mother of all bombs. It wasn't a bunker buster, but it was very heavy, from a C-130. They can carry 40,000 pounds. So maybe the Israelis are thinking, if we have air supremacy, a slow-moving 250-mile-an-hour C-130 flying at 30,000 feet at night or something might make it through, and they could drop one. Maybe they could at least drop one and have 2 or 3 of them in succession. So they're thinking of ways to handle the possibility that the United States will not intervene in the next 2 weeks. I don't think anybody knows what we're going to do. Donald Trump is trying to deal with the apostates in his administration. The Wall Street Journal, of all the organs of news on this, center-right, they have the least insight into the Trump administration because they have been so negative. I mean, every single initiative, trade, tariffs, recession, unemployment, inflation, Donald Trump this, and they've been wrong on every single one. We saw the May statistics. There has been a monthly rate of inflation that dropped to the lowest in 4 years. There's been an increase in personal income, personal savings. There's been good GDP growth. There's been everything that you would want, and yet you never see that in the pages of the Wall Street Journal. So I think when Donald Trump said they don't know what they're talking about, that reflected a larger disdain for them. And when you look at, as I've said before on these videos, when you look at the bylines of the reporters and you click them on and you want to see where they came from, where they gravitated, you can see a shift in the Wall Street Journal. I don't know which of the Murdochsians is running it, but someone has moved it to the left because they are drawing reporters in their news divisions from Politico, Washington Post, New York Times, Atlantic, and it's noticeable. So they're not going to have any influence. They're not going to be a receptacle of leaks. The only other thing, very quickly, is it is a mistake to think that someone in the administration, in the media, or in the MAGA movement is so close to Donald Trump, is so protected that they can publicly either leak or attack him. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I've met her. I've been on a venue with her. I think she's great. But when she gave that assessment that Iran was not immediately going to make a bomb, that was belied by a lot of other intelligence networks in Europe, in Israel, and our own. But more importantly, when someone leaked that she might resign if he does use force. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was a leak. And more importantly, when she gave that report, I'm glad that it's independent, it's not weaponized, but that's not, Donald Trump said he just ignored her, and she's on the outs. And I like, as I said, I've got a lot of criticism from people on the right. I guess you'd call it the center right. I like Tucker Carlson. I was on his show mostly Monday nights right after prime time on the A Block, but when he says that Donald Trump is going to lose his administration by belying MAGA, and you factor in the fact that they leaked those Dominion lawsuit comments he made that he couldn't stand Donald Trump. I think he said that 2 days before January 6th. And then he had to say in this debate with Ted Cruz, it was a fascinating debate, they both went at it, that he loves Donald Trump, but when that leak gets to Donald Trump, that's why Donald Trump used the word kook. He's a kooky. Donald Trump is absolutely transactional. He does not care what you think your relationship is with him. If you leak and if you attack him publicly, whether, I don't know, justifiably or not, he's going to reply and he's going to remember it. And so he said in comment, I've never been more popular with the MAGA base. I looked at most of the polls. He's right. The MAGA base is people who identify as MAGA, overwhelmingly which poll you read, it depends, 60 to 70% support United States help to Israel and a United States possible 1 or 2 times strike on them. So
what you just said reminded me of an interview that I saw, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the guy who was talking, but he said that they were asking him about the current events in Iran, and he said that the Iranians didn't read the art of the deal. Donald Trump offers his best deal the first time, and after that, they're not going to get as good of a deal. And that was when
I wrote the case for Trump, I think I read The Art of the Deal, The Art of the Comeback. I think there were 9 books in that series, and it's just sort of a textbook about what he does. Notice that he hasn't really trashed the Iranians as they deserve. He said, well, I want to negotiate. They should have took the deal. I said 60 days, and they didn't do it. But you read The Art of the Deal, it's very interesting. He says that you go in and you just demand the world, but you have a predetermined level of advantage, let's say 55% in your interest, but you want 90, and you scream, and you yell, and you threaten, and you get maybe 54%. And then you cut the deal, and then you lament that you were taken, but you never, ever attack your former adversary. You praise him. That's what he does with Putin. Everybody said he's a Putin puppet because no. He's trying to be transactional with Putin. And the same thing with the Iranians. He could have said all sorts of things about him. He said, I want to negotiate. We can negotiate. It's not as crazy as you think, because there are a lot of scenarios for the end game of this war. The only end game that will be acceptable to Israel are there can be no nuclear infrastructure remaining Doesn't mean they can't in a future time rebuild it, but for these foreseeable 5 to 10 years, there will be no ability to make a bomb. Number two, there will be no fissionable material, enriched uranium or plutonium derivatives that can make a bomb anywhere. And the present government not only will not be there, but a replacement like it will not be there. Now, Israel can't determine that because that has to come from the Iranian people, but those are its three war aims. Our war aims, as I understand the Trump administration, strategically were parallel to them. We want an end to all of the nuclear material and all of the nuclear facilities, but we don't want to ourselves, if we can help it, go in and take them out. So we want a mechanism of the Israelis to come up with their usual brilliance and figure out how to do it. There was a column today by Michael Oren. He was the ambassador from Israel. He was a brilliant author of the 6 Days of War, about the 6-Day War. He had the same literary agent as I did. And he said, looking for a bomber, anybody. I mean, just give us, can we lease? Can we buy an old B-52? And that got people really enraged. Why would we give you a strategic bomber? But one thing I don't understand about the Israelis, and they spend, I don't know what they are, 60 to 70 million dollars for a F-35, and maybe, I don't know, for a souped up F-16 or F-15, 30, 40 million. Can't they get some type of, either a C-130 or C-17, some type of civilian plane like a old 747 and refit it as a bomber? Because they need one or two of them, because this is going to come up again. And if they had that, they would be successful.
Well, I was looking at today at Times of Israel, which is not necessarily a right-wing paper, but they were talking about Mossad. I don't know if you saw the article, but just how the recent leader of Mossad, David Barnea, has really transformed it. And they didn't quite say this, but it led to this conclusion that he made this whole attack possible. All the work that Mossad did inside of Iran.
The difference is that under his direction, he assumes there's going to be a war. Now, they missed October 7th, but he assumes there's going to be a war. Then the next question he asks himself is, what can intelligence authorities do to aid the war effort? I don't mean by gathering intel, I mean actual detriment to the enemy. And so then he places operatives years ahead inside Iran, dissidents, and pays them. I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they got the drones in. They say they put them in crates, they put them in trucks, they land them. Do they go out to the desert? Do they go through a neighboring country? Do they work with dissidents? I don't know how they do it. But on the first day of the war, those drones took out a lot of Iranian defense capability. And more importantly, they have wiped out 20 of the top military leaders. They had to know where they were. They had to know where they sleep. They know exactly where the physicists were. They took out probably 15 of them. And they know where Khamenei is. And now that he attacked a hospital, I'm sure they're going to take him out. I don't think people would be necessarily in Iran upset about it. But I do think if we do intervene, they will try. Tom Cotton in 2024 had a very mercurial, irate exchange with Lloyd Austin. And he said to him at one time, how many times has Iran attacked us in Jordan, Syria, and Iraq, our installations? And 70, I think actually the number is 200. And he said, how many times have we responded? Well, we responded different. How many times? 5. And so what he was getting at is that Iran, through its surrogates, has an ability to attack. I think they killed 3 Americans and they injured some, but they have an ability to attack these people. And I just like to editorialize for our audience here for a second. I don't want to go back and blame prior administrations, but if you look at the root of this entire fiasco of 47 years, 6 years of this evil regime, it was Jimmy Carter. He was president of the United States when we had an ally Yes, he was autocratic. Yes, he was right wing. Yes, there was Sabat. But compared to the alternative in the region, he was modern. He was pro-Western. He helped us with the Straits of Hormuz. He guaranteed oil for us. He was a solid ally. And Jimmy Carter fell for that European Michel Foucault French fascination with Khomeini. And the French flew Khomeini in there with his cassettes. And when they took those hostages and they attacked her, that was an act of war. And he had the ability to really hurt that regime. He could have bombed their oil, he could have bombed their military bases and given them a lesson. It's a very and I also have some criticism of Ronald Reagan. When they blew up the Marine barracks in Lebanon and the U.S. Embassy, and we just lobbed some military, I think the New Jersey or the Iowa shelled the Bekaa Valley, that was not enough. And they were inured. And then when you have Joe Biden, who took the terrorist designation away from the Houthis, first thing he did, oh, they're not terrorists. Then they started up again. And then we had these attacks on our installations. He didn't reply to them. And then he begged and begged, please, please, can we get back in the Iran deal? Oh, you need some money? Here's $100 billion for your future oil revenue sales to China. Oh, Hezbollah? Well, we'll negotiate with them. Maybe we'll take Hezbollah's side on who really owns offshore gas with the Israelis when they're fighting. Oh, Turkey objects to the pipeline, the Med pipeline. Oh, we'll go against our own allies, Israel and Cyprus, and side with Turkey and cancel it. But we'll say it's climate change. It was just systematic, repetitive, serial. All they did was make as much daylight between themselves and Israel and pander and appease Iran and its tentacles. And this is what we got. And sometimes I get irritated when I don't get irritated. I get amused when Carolyn Levitt, I like her so much. She's so self-assured. She's so beautiful. She's so poised. And I look at the faces of the left-wing people like, why isn't she uglier? Why isn't she older? Why doesn't she make mistakes? Why is she so confident? Why does she praise Donald Trump? But when I see all of those, the Trump reinforcement that everything, and I think they've got a real, I kind of get angry and I'm trying to stumble a minute. My first impulse is just get over Joe Biden. Because it's like a little speck. She starts to speak and she says, and Donald Trump, and this was because of the derelict Biden administration. And then Trump goes, he starts talking about the Houthis. And he said, well, we've got to deal with them and they're not going to talk the Red Sea. But it was the awful Biden, he was the worst president. Biden did that to Trump, only he did it with the FBI. And then Trump said something that was really funny the other day. They asked him about his attitude about his enemies, more or less. And he said, I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. That sent everybody crazy, because he's been hunted.
So, Victor, I just want to ask you about China and Europe before we go on to World War II. China, apparently there was a transport plane that was lost from radar right around the Iranian region, so we're not sure if China's trying to stealthily...
It was supposed to be going to Luxembourg.
Yes.
And I guess a Chinese part owner was a Chinese firm or consortium. And it disappeared, so we can imagine what that was. They were either sending, I don't think they were sending fissionable material, but who knows? They were probably sending more drones or missile guidance systems, something. And I mean, they buy, as I said, 50% of the Middle East oil, but before Trump came in under Biden, they were buying 90% of Iranian oil, and they were part of the Russian, Iranian, North Korean axis. The problem with it is three of them are nuclear, and Iran may or may not be. So that is something we have to watch when we have nuclear Russia, nuclear China, and then crazy nuclear North Korea and crazy almost nuclear Iran. Their basic attitude is, we think you're stupid. The Chinese, this is their view of the United States. We think you're stupid. We think you're decadent. We think you don't earn your riches, and you You shouldn't be any competitor of ours. We're smarter than you are. We're better than you are. We're more numerous than you are. We're going to destroy you someday. But for some weird reason, you have more power than we do. And that's not fair. So we're going to do everything we can to hurt you. We're going to send people in with fungus to destroy your crops. We're going to send people to Reedley, California, who will have all sorts of weird strains of vira and bacteria. We're going to send drones probably off the coast to test your defenses. We're going to send a balloon. We don't think you're going to do anything. We're going to send 300,000 students, and 290,000 of them are going to appropriate your technology. They're not going to be spies, but they're going to come back and help us. 10% are. 10,000 more than that. Maybe 30,000, I don't know, 10,000, 20,000 are going to be actively engaged with intelligence for China. And that's their attitude. And when you bite back, you're a racist. Yellow peril of the 19th century. No. We helped you in World War II. And then you turned on us and got a communist government and killed a lot of us in Korea and created this North Korean monstrosity. They're capable of anything. And I won't even get into the lab origins of Wuhan. Best case scenario, the Chinese People Liberation Army, who controlled the lab, gave a contract to a civilian affiliated group to make a virus and a vaccination, experiment and gain and function, and get all the information you could after stupid, idiotic, naives like Peter Daszak at EcoHealth and Fauci and Michael Cohen. And the worst, it was a bioweapon. And they didn't and the worst, it got out because of lax security. And the worst, conspiratorial perhaps, is they let it out. Or if they didn't let it out, as soon as it was out, they let it spread and shut down all flights from Wuhan domestically and let people from Wuhan go all over Europe and the United States for 2 weeks.
And now they think we're still stupid because they've had students bring in a fungus that could cause blight in our staple crops. They are buying land near our bases.
I shouldn't say they think we're stupid. We are stupid. That's what they do. That's what they did under Biden. That balloon should have been blown up the first moment it got into Alaskan airspace. And we didn't do anything. Just as a point of honor,
So let me go to the last thing here, or the second thing. The Europeans, apparently France has intimated that they want to have the European powers resolve this Israel-Iran war, and Macron is leading that, number one. And then we've had in Britain a bunch of actors and people in the entertainment community that are trying to pressure their Prime Minister Starmer to stop selling arms to Israel. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on European responses.
Yeah, the French kicked out the Israeli arms merchants at their international arms show. And I think the Israelis, when they left a little sign. If you're interested, look at what we're doing against Iran, or turn on the TV and see our weapons in action, something to that effect. They go way back with Iran. I mean, they're neo-imperialists. They always were. They divided up the Sykes-Picot. They divided up, they got Lebanon, they got Syria, the British got Iraq and Egypt and Jordan. And they feel they have a special historical tie to the Middle East, and they think that they're sort of Greek philosophers and we're Roman legionaries. So we are the muscle, but we're stupid, and they're smart, but they're too moral to have armies and militaries. So in their way of thinking, Macron is, well, I shall come to you, Donald, and I will give you a plan that our beautiful intellectuals have thought up. And you and your, I don't know what you call them, the B1, the B2, I don't know what they are, but you just go do it according to our direction. That's how they think. And they're nuts. They have no power. Their economies are ossified and fossilized. Only thing I'm curious of, in the G7, the Italian Prime Minister was rolling her eyes to Macron. And we think it was because he said something stupid. I think it was because Donald Trump was leaving. and she thought that was psychodrama or something. Oh, wow, here's Trump again. She should not do that.
Should not do that in
Italy
public.
is not necessarily critical to the economic or military health of the United States, as beautiful as it is, and how much we all love Italy, nevertheless, if that's true.
Yes. Well, Victor, let's go ahead and take a break, and then we'll come back for 1945 and World War II, and we'll probably come back to a few of these things in our third segment, but stay with us, and we'll be right back.